Hello and welcome. My name is Andy Solkeld and this is my UKTC mission pack review. Today we're going to be talking about mission 23, the Scouring. And this is round 6 played at UKTC events. So if you're a 6-round event, this would be day 2, game 3. Some places do 5 rounds and then cut to either a top 8 or top 4. This would be the first round of that. Either way, it is the sixth mission that would be played. And it's important to understand regardless, because we're doing this as a full series. So it would be unfair for me to leave any missions out. The Scouring is a hold 1, hold 2, hold more. I don't believe there are any specific mission rules in this, but there is an action for mission scoring. Any unit can attempt to do it on an objective not already scanned. It completes the start of your next command phase. There can't be any enemy models there, and each time it completes you score 3 victory points at the end of the battle. This is very reminiscent of the sort of the Sons of Guilliman, Sacred Ground, those sorts of secondaries. And one of the things to just be aware of is don't overload yourself with actions that you need to do in various locations. But it's one of those secondaries where you can kind of you can catch up primary with it, but it gets very hard to do it beyond your 2 safe objectives and your kind of and then the middle, and then it just gets nigh impossible unless you're already tabling your opponent. Because the way the objectives are laid out, they're all compressed into the middle. This is a very aggressive map where single units can control 2 objectives. And like if they're particularly large with large bases, like say 6 bikes or something like that, you may even be able to hold 3 objectives with them, which is just wild. And it's just important to be able to kind of to know that because everything's compressed into the middle, this is going to be an incredibly bloody game. But what it also means is that your backfield is almost entirely open. There's no reason for your opponent to go there other than to shoot you from behind. But deep striking doesn't really allow access to assaulting objectives that can deny primary. It's purely an aggression play and an attack play rather than a scoring play. So it's just be aware that people could deep strike back there because you're going to move forwards, and then it's suddenly going to be like, oh, they're all behind me if your opponent's army can do that. So say Thousand Suns teleporting, etc. But equally, what do they get from being behind there other than the ability to shoot you? So maybe screen them out turn 1 and then move to the other side of the ruins so that even if they do deep strike back there, they can't shoot you. And things like that. Just different counterplay with it. One of the things I've also found really useful on this mission is try to scan the furthest away objectives earlier and then do the ones close to your objective zone later. So what I will try to do with this is potentially scan the middle objective with a Rhino or a Castigator or something like that, where it's incredibly durable, and I might even try to put some obsec inside it so that if my opponent stops me doing the action, it could end up with me having obsec holding the middle point and scoring a 12 on primary as a result. And it's just because it's easy to do the 2 just outside your deployment zone, the ones you can do further away actually benefit you more. And sometimes this game can come down to who can score the most from outside the 2 safe ones. You can hold one of these ruins safely, the other one you can't, but you can walk onto relatively quickly. You can also do various kind of shenaniganry with a character stood on the objective, but then something staging in the ruin in front of it, so that they've got lookout sir, there's a unit closer, they can't get shot, and they'd have to go through, say, maybe a unit of Repentia lining an L to even be able to get to the character that's scoring you primary. There are two staging Ls, one for each player, but you can use them to kind of protect from Overwatch and things like that, so just be aware of it. Similarly, if you are playing an Overwatch army, like say a Salamanders or something like that, you actually want to touch the ruins on this. Yes, you get cover, yes, you can be shot, but actually it protects assaulting of your home objectives that can protect your primary score. The large L in the middle is actually incredibly open from the right flank of the board. I believe you only need to move like 6 or 7 inches forward, and you can actually see into half of that. If you have a Castigator that can drive 12 inches forward, you can see, I believe it's around 2/3 of that base. So if you want to protect things and you want to stage them in that middle ruin, you either need to be in the nook of the L, right in the corner, because then they kind of can't see those unless... I don't think they can see them until they're in your deployment zone. Or you want to have them stood off the ruin so that they are benefiting from the obscuring that has been granted by that piece of terrain. It's a really subtle difference about whether you're on the terrain or off the terrain, but off the terrain just means you cannot be shot unless they move further up and get a good angle on the model, not on it. On the terrain you get cover, but if they have fast moving shooting, like say Eldar coming out of a transport with shuriken or shuriken bikes that can just get into you, you need to be aware of that as a possibility when it comes to this. It can be it can catch a lot of people off guard, and you need to be aware of it. With regards to Sisters, this is actually this is a really good map for Sisters, I find. You can defend the shrine very easily because you can hold one of them from within your deployment zone and you're just going to score it. Yes, it can be assaulted quickly, but you're going to very quickly counter-assault it and hopefully clear it out very fast. Sacred Ground, you can get 10 from essentially within your deployment zone, 15 very easily, and there are more opportunities for that. Equally, it can just be a very safe banners mission where you just raise 2 banners and score 10, depending on what you kind of feel about your opponent's army. How you deploy as a Sisters player in this can largely be determined by your opponent. And what I mean by that is, if they are heavily staging on one side, you can potentially just stage on the other and you can go through the normal swirl process that occurs. Equally, if they're spread out, you can put your Repentia and your Zephyrim ready to assault from turn 1, essentially. If they go first and walk out, you can just get into them. This mission, it is very bloody. Like, everything is going to die because you're just going to walk forwards, and you need to be able to know when to step on the gas and when to step back on it. And that's very much like the score projection. If you are going to win because of your secondaries and just tying primary, then you need to basically just try to play defensively and deny your opponent the ability to deny you primary. As you can see from the way I've laid things out, I favour having my Retributors in the middle because they can shoot across the line, and then I will typically pick one side to just overwhelm with Repentia. What I've shown here is I've kind of set it up to have the Castigator drive to shoot their home field, have the Repentia move up into my staging ruin, and then be in a position to assault all the 2 near objectives and their home ruin the next turn. And then I could maybe have Vahl holding that objective, being granted Lookout Sir from a number of things. And then the top would just be Battle Sisters backed up by Zephyrim, Seraphim, other nonsense to just kind of keep my opponent at bay up there. And then just try to score 8s off my 2, and then maybe move into, like, give up the top one, move into take the bottom, and just kind of go along that way. This is a fairly straightforward map, but it's just being aware of some of the nuance of, like, where the good firing lane is here. And if you can establish that sort of firing lane, it can really hinder your opponent. But yeah, anyway, if you've made it this far into a tournament and you're playing this will be the end of day 2, or at some point in the top 4 or top 8. Congratulations to you for making it this far. And now we'll move on to covering the next, or the final 3 missions that don't always pop up in events, but sometimes it's worthwhile knowing them. So anyway, thank you very much for this, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.